a glittering rehearsal dinner in the heart of Raleigh, North Carolina, where chandeliers cast a warm glow over white tablecloths and the air buzzes with anticipation. I'm 33, standing on the cusp of marrying Emily, the woman I thought I'd spend forever with, until her family's cruel words about my late mother shattered everything. In a single, heart-wrenching moment, I made a choice that shocked the room and changed my life forever. This is the story of how I walked away from a wedding, a family, and a future I once believed in, all to honor the woman who meant the world to me. Until recently, I was engaged to Emily, a woman I met 6 years ago at a backyard barbecue in sunny Charlotte, North Carolina, through mutual friends. Her infectious laugh and quick wit drew me in like a magnet, and we clicked instantly. Proposing to her a year ago felt like the easiest decision I'd ever made, like she was the missing piece I'd been searching for. But it wasn't just Emily I thought I was building a life with. It was her family, too. Her parents, Tom and Susan, are the kind of people who command attention. They're loud, opinionated, and always ready with a comment on everything. At first, I chalked it up to their bold personalities, but over time, I saw how their sense of entitlement seeped into every interaction, casting a shadow over our plans. Before I dive into the night that unraveled it all, let me tell you about my mom, Margaret. She was, without question, the most remarkable person I've ever known. She passed away 2 years ago after a grueling 3-year battle with cancer. Watching her fight that illness while still putting others first was humbling beyond words. She taught me what it means to be kind, generous, and to stand tall for what's right. My mom wasn't just my rock. She was a beacon for so many. She had this quiet way of helping people without ever making them feel small or indebted. She'd step in, do what needed doing, and move on without fanfare. That included Emily's family, who owed her more than they'd ever acknowledge, though you'd never guess it from how they spoke of her later. When I first brought Emily to meet my mom, things seemed to go well enough. My mom warmed to her, telling me she liked Emily's spirit, and Emily was polite in return. But as our relationship grew serious, I started noticing cracks. Emily didn't quite gel with my mom, dropping small, stinging comments about her being too involved or overly eager to help. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I brushed it off, thinking it was just nerves or Emily adjusting to our family's closeness. The truth is, my mom did so much for Emily's family. Years ago, when their diner in Raleigh was teetering on the edge of collapse, my mom co-signed a loan to keep it afloat. No one else would take that risk, but she believed in them. She even sat down with them, helping organize their finances and crafting a plan to make the business profitable again. It worked. The diner survived, and Tom and Susan kept their livelihood. But her kindness didn't stop there. When the diner's industrial fridge gave out, threatening their business, my mom paid for a new one out of her own pocket. She never asked for repayment, even when her medical bills started piling up later. That's just who she was. Selfless to a fault. Then there was Emily's older brother, Ethan. He was struggling to cover tuition for his final semester of college, at risk of dropping out. My mom stepped in, paying the full amount because she believed education was a gift no one could take away. It wasn't just money she gave, it was her time and heart. She spent hours helping with their bookkeeping, offering advice, even babysitting Ethan's kids so he could focus on his studies. And yet, Tom, Susan, and Ethan never truly thanked her. Sure, they muttered a quick thanks here and there, but there was no real gratitude for the lifeline much she'd thrown them. My mom never cared about recognition, though. She helped because it was right, not for applause. When my mom passed, I was gutted. Losing her felt like a piece of my soul had been ripped away. Emily seemed supportive at first, but looking back, her efforts were surface level. She'd say things like, "You need to move forward, James. Your mom wouldn't want you stuck in grief." It sounded reasonable, but it landed cold, like she was dismissing my pain rather than sharing it. As our wedding loomed, I started seeing more red flags. Emily would sidestep any mention of my mom in our ceremony plans. I wanted to include a small tribute during our vows, but she brushed it off, saying, "Won't that make people sad? Weddings are supposed to be joyful." I let it slide to avoid a fight, but those moments kept piling up, each one a tiny fracture in my trust. Then there were Tom and Susan's comments. They had a knack for talking down to me like Emily was settling by choosing me. Tom once joked that Emily was upgrading her life by marrying someone from a simpler background. Susan would sigh, "Well, love requires sacrifices," as if I was a project Emily had taken on. It stung, but I held my tongue for Emily's sake, telling myself things would settle once the wedding was over. I couldn't have been more mistaken. About a month before the big day, the cracks started to widen. Tom and Susan offered to host the rehearsal dinner at a high-end restaurant in downtown Raleigh, one they had ties to. At first, I thought it was a generous gesture, maybe their way of smoothing over the snide remarks and awkward moments during wedding planning. I even hoped it was a sign they were stepping up. But it quickly became clear it was more about their egos than us. Susan kept boasting about how much effort they'd poured into making the dinner the talk of the town. Tom bragged about securing the best venue in Raleigh, reminding everyone how fortunate we were. It felt less like a gift and more like a stage for their self-importance. I tried to focus on the wedding and let them take the reins on the dinner, but that was a colossal mistake. As the date approached, their true colors shone brighter. Every conversation with them turned into a sly dig or passive-aggressive jab. When I tried to confirm the guest list, Susan rolled her eyes and said, "We've got it handled, James. Don't stress over the details. Just show up." It was a small thing, but it irked me. This was our event, wasn't it? Shouldn't Emily and I have a say? Then there was the menu. Susan made a huge deal about curating a sophisticated dining experience, adding, "Nothing like what you'd find back home, James." That back home jab was her favorite, a reminder that I came from a modest town outside Charlotte, far from their social circle. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just one night. Smile, nod, get through it. But Emily's behavior shifted too. She'd always leaned toward her parents' side, but now it was worse. Anytime I raised a concern, she'd wave it off with, "James, you're overthinking. My parents know what they're doing." It wasn't just the dinner. It was the way they made me feel like an outsider in my own relationship, like I should be grateful Emily even glanced my way. And Emily? She never stood up for me. She'd laugh along with their jabs or dismiss me when I tried to address it. A week before the dinner, an incident should have stopped me cold. We were at Tom and Susan's house, finalizing wedding details. Susan was in full control mode, flipping through seating charts and floral arrangements like she was planning a royal ball. I suggested simpler centerpieces, something my mom would have loved. Without looking up, Susan said, "Margaret had such peculiar taste, didn't she? But this is Emily's day. Let's keep it modern." It was a subtle jab, but it hit like a punch. Emily didn't react, just kept scrolling on her phone like nothing had happened. I wanted to call Susan out, but I swallowed my pride, not wanting to start a fight. Looking back, I hate that I stayed silent. Each insult, each slight was stacking up, but I kept brushing them off to keep the peace. I thought I was being diplomatic, holding things together. The day of the rehearsal dinner arrived, and tension crackled in the air. Emily and I drove to the restaurant together, but she was distant, glued to her phone. I tried to make small talk to lighten the mood, asking if she was excited. She shrugged. "It's just a dinner, James. Don't make a big deal out of it." Just a dinner, I thought. When we arrived, Tom and Susan were already holding court. Tom stood at the entrance, shaking hands like a politician, while Susan barked orders at the staff. The restaurant was over the top. White tablecloths, chandeliers, the whole 9 yards. It screamed, "Look how important we are!" And I felt more out of place than ever. As guests trickled in, I noticed something off. Nearly everyone was from Emily's side. My dad, sister, and a couple of close friends were the only ones from mine. The rest were Emily's relatives or her parents' business associates. It felt like they'd turned our rehearsal dinner into a corporate mixer. I pulled Emily aside, my voice low. "Why aren't more of my family here?" She gave me an exasperated look. "James, your family's small. My parents had to fill the room somehow." "It's not a big deal." Not a big deal, her favorite excuse. I bit my tongue and went back to mingling. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't about us. Tom and Susan had hijacked what was supposed to be a celebration of our love and turned it into their personal spectacle. After everyone ate, the speeches began, and that's when the night imploded. Tom went first, grabbing the mic like he was giving a TED Talk. He started, "Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we celebrate the union of two families, our Emily and, well, James." My name sounded like an afterthought, spat out with a smirk. His speech was laced with veiled insults, praising Emily's ambition while implying I was there to keep her grounded. He smirked again, and a few guests chuckled. I sat there, stunned, wondering if I'd heard right. Then he launched into a story about Emily's childhood achievements, saying she needed their guidance to stay on track. "Well, James might not be what we envisioned at first," he said, letting the words hang like a punchline. I could feel my dad and sister glaring from across the table. Susan went next, strutting to the mic like she was accepting an award. Her speech started sweet, gushing about Emily, but soon turned to jabs at me. She called Emily the perfect daughter who deserved the best, adding, "It's a good thing she's patient, teaching James so much already." I nearly choked on my water. Teaching me what? How to endure their insults? Then she looked at me and said, "We're thrilled to welcome you, James. It'll be nice to have someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty, right?" She laughed, and some of her relatives joined in. I glanced at Emily, hoping for a hint of discomfort, but she was smiling along, like it was all harmless fun. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Tom took the mic again. "One last thing," he said, clinking his glass. "Let's honor someone who shaped James. His mom, Margaret." For a split second I hoped for kindness, but he continued. "Margaret was one of a kind. Always sticking her nose in, wasn't she? Had an opinion on everything." He laughed, and as Susan chimed in, "Oh, she loved to help, even when we didn't ask." I couldn't believe my ears. They were mocking my mom like she was some nosy neighbor. Tom went on. "She was generous, sometimes too much, if I'm honest." He winked like it was an inside joke. The room fell quiet, but he kept going. "We'll keep her spirit alive at the wedding, but let's hope James doesn't inherit her need to take charge, right?" That was it. My face burned. My fists clenched under the table. I looked to Emily, waiting for her to shut them down, but she just giggled and said, "Oh, Dad, stop," like it was playful banter. Playful. They were trashing my mom's memory in front of a room full of people, and she thought it was funny. The tension in the room was suffocating. People awkwardly resumed eating, the clink of forks and glasses filling the silence. Emily leaned over, whispering, "You okay?" Her tone was so casual, like she was asking if I wanted more wine, not if I was seething. I nodded, jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. Then Susan approached our table, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "James, I hope you're not upset. Tom and I were just adding a little humor, all in good fun." That's when something snapped. I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Are you kidding me right now?" I said, voice low but trembling with rage. The room went dead silent, all eyes on me. Emily whispered, "James, stop!" but I ignored her. "Let me get this straight," I said, louder now, staring at Susan. "You spent the whole night taking cheap shots at my mom, the woman who helped your family when no one else would. And now you act like it's a joke? You think that's okay?" Tom leaned back, smirking. "Relax, James. You're overreacting. It was just a bit of fun." "Fun?" I shot back. "You called her meddling, said she was too much, mocked her kindness like it was a flaw. How is that fun?" A few of Emily's cousins looked down at their plates, clearly uncomfortable. My dad was glaring at Tom. My sister had her arms crossed, ready to jump in. Susan tried to laugh it off. "Oh, James, don't be so sensitive. Everyone knew Margaret loved to take charge." "Take charge," I said, my voice rising. "She saved your diner when it was about to go under. She paid for your fridge, your patio remodel, and Ethan's college tuition, and this is how you repay her, by turning her into a punchline at my rehearsal dinner?" Tom sat up, annoyed. "All right, that's enough," he said, trying to sound authoritative. "We didn't mean any harm, but if you're going to throw a tantrum, maybe you're not ready for marriage." His words showed how little he respected me or my mom. Emily tugged my sleeve. "James, can we go outside and talk, please?" I pulled away. "No, Emily, not until your parents see how disgusting they've been." Susan sighed dramatically, like she was the victim. "James, this is a happy occasion. You're ruining it for everyone." "I'm ruining it," I said, shaking with anger. "No, Susan, you ruined it the second you decided to trash my mom in front of everyone. And Emily, you just sat there laughing along. You didn't even try to stop them." The room buzzed with whispers as guests leaned toward each other, murmuring about the scene. I could feel their stares, but I didn't care. This was about my mom. Tom stood, fed up. "All right, James. If you're so offended, maybe you should leave," he said, pointing to the door. For a moment, I considered it. Just walking out, leaving them to their perfect little dinner. But I looked at my dad, my sister, my few friends who'd come to support me. They were watching, waiting. I couldn't let Tom and Susan get away with it. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not leaving until you understand what you've done. You act like my mom was some overbearing busybody, but without her you wouldn't even have this restaurant connection. She didn't help you for praise or recognition. She did it because she cared. And now you're sitting here mocking her memory like it's a punchline. That's not just disrespectful, it's shameful." The silence was deafening. Even Tom looked rattled. Susan was speechless. Emily stared at the table, her face a mix of shame and anger. Finally, Tom muttered, "We didn't mean it like that." "It doesn't matter how you meant it," I said. What matters is how it came across. You don't get to rewrite who my mom was to fit your narrative. She deserved better than that, and honestly, so do I." I stepped back, grabbing my coat. "You want me to leave? Fine. But don't expect me to come back." My dad stood immediately, ready to follow. My sister grabbed her purse, shooting one last glare at Susan. A couple of friends rose too, unsure but supportive. Emily called after me, "James, wait!" But I kept walking, head high, heart pounding, out into the cool night air. Outside, my dad put a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, son. Your mom would be proud." I nodded, but I didn't feel proud, just angry and betrayed. Emily's failure to stand up for me or my mom showed me she wasn't who I thought. Walking away felt right, but it wasn't enough. I couldn't let them spin this as me being too sensitive. This was about my mom's memory and what I stood for. I took a deep breath and turned to my dad. "I need to go back in." My sister blinked. "Why? You don't owe them anything?" "I know," I said, "but I'm not leaving this unfinished. I need to make it clear to Emily, her parents, everyone, that I'm done for good." My dad hesitated, then nodded. "If that's what you need, we've got your back." "No," I said, shaking my head. "This is something I have to do alone. I walked back inside, the room humming with whispers. Emily stood, pale and wide-eyed. "James, what are you doing?" I ignored her and walked to the front, where Tom and Susan sat, still smug. Tom raised an eyebrow. Susan flashed her fake smile. "Back so soon?" Tom said, sarcasm dripping. I turned to the room, voice steady. "Excuse me, everyone. I have something to say." The murmurs stopped instantly. Emily stood frozen, hands clasped. "I know this isn't the time or place anyone expected, but after tonight, I don't see any reason to wait. This wedding is off." The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, chairs, scraping. Emily's jaw dropped, her hands flying to her mouth. "James, no!" she whispered. I raised a hand to stop her. The room fell silent, even the waitstaff frozen in the corners. "This isn't just about tonight," I said. "This is about the kind of family I'd be marrying into. One that doesn't respect me, doesn't respect my mom, and doesn't respect the values I was raised with. I can't and won't spend my life being treated like this." Tom found his voice. "You're making a big mistake, kid," he said, condescending. "You're throwing away a good thing over nothing." I laughed bitterly. "Nothing? You think disrespecting my mom is nothing? Treating me like I'm less than? No, Tom. The mistake would be going through with this wedding and tying myself to a family that doesn't deserve me." Susan looked near tears, maybe from embarrassment. "James, let's not make decisions in the heat of the moment. We can talk tomorrow when everyone's calmed down." "No," I said firmly. "We're not talking tomorrow or ever. This is done." I turned to Emily one last time. Her face was streaked with tears, a mix of shock and desperation. I walked to the door, my footsteps echoing in the silence. As I reached for the handle, Emily called, "James, please don't do this!" I paused, hand on the door, then turned back. I already did. Walking out felt like ripping off a bandage, painful but freeing. The wedding, the disrespect, the feeling of being second best in a family I was supposed to join, it was all behind me. The next morning, the fallout hit hard. I woke to 100 unread messages. Most were from Emily, some from Tom and Susan, even a few from their random relatives I barely knew. Emily's texts were desperate. "I'm sorry, James. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please talk to me." Tom's were aggressive. "You embarrassed us in front of everyone. You'll regret this." Susan played the victim. "I can't believe you'd do this to Emily. She didn't deserve this." I ignored them all. By mid-afternoon, Emily showed up at my apartment. I'd braced for it, but it didn't make it easier. She looked like she hadn't slept, eyes red, still in her dress from the night before, like she'd cried all night. "James, can we talk?" she said, voice shaking. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "What's left to talk about, Emily? I made myself clear last night." She flinched but pressed on. "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But we can fix this. We can work through it." I shook my head. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't something we can just work through." Tears fell as she stammered. "I was scared, okay? I didn't know what to do." "Scared of what?" I snapped, frustration boiling over. "Scared of upsetting your parents? Scared of making a scene?" She had no answer, just stood there sobbing while I waited for something, anything, that would show she understood what she'd done. Nothing came. Her eyes widened as she stepped closer. "Please, James," she whispered. "Don't do this. We can make it work. I'll talk to my parents, make them apologize. Just don't end it like this." I shook my head again. "It's not just your parents, Emily. It's you. Last night showed me exactly who you are, and I can't unsee it. I deserve better than this." She stared, her face crumpling as the reality sank in. One Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning out my mom's old keepsake box, a treasure trove of memories I'd held on to since she passed. Inside were her favorite necklace, earrings she wore to church, and a delicate locket with a picture of my grandmother, passed down through generations. My mom had given it to me before she died, saying, "One day you'll know the right person to give this to." It wasn't just jewelry, it was a piece of her, of our family's history. But that day, the locket was gone. I tore the box apart, searching every corner, then checked drawers, shelves, even the floor. Nothing. My heart sank as I realized someone had taken it. The only person who'd been in my apartment recently, besides family and close friends, was Emily. She'd stopped by a few days after the breakup to return the engagement ring, asking to use the bathroom. I hadn't thought twice at the time, but now it clicked. I grabbed my phone and texted her. "Did you take the locket from my mom's keepsake box?" She replied, "What are you talking about?" I wasn't buying it. "You know exactly what I mean. It's gone, and you're the only one who's been here." After a pause, her response made my blood boil. "I borrowed it because I wanted to keep a piece of her with me. I thought it would help me feel closer to you." Borrowed? Without asking? I called her immediately. She answered, defensive. "It's not a big deal, James," she said. "I was going to give it back." "Not a big deal?" I snapped. "That locket's been in my family for generations. It's not some trinket you can just take because you feel like it. How could you think that was okay?" She tried to play the sympathy card, voice trembling. "I just wanted to feel connected to you. I didn't think you'd notice." "Of course I'd notice," I shouted. "It's my mom's, and the fact that you didn't ask makes it worse." She admitted it was at her parents' house, for safekeeping. I was livid. "You took something that means more to me than you'll ever understand and left it at your parents' house? Are you serious?" She started crying, but I wasn't in the mood to console her. "Where is it?" I demanded. "It's at my parents'," she sobbed. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I said, voice cold. "I'm coming to get it now." An hour later, I pulled up to Tom and Susan's house. My anger had only grown during the drive. Susan opened the door, her fake smile fading when she saw my face. "James, what's this about?" she said cautiously. "I'm here for my mom's locket," I said bluntly. "Emily said it's here." Susan's face shifted to annoyance. "Emily took a locket? Why would she—" I cut her off. "Just get it." She stepped aside, and a few minutes later, Emily came downstairs, locket in hand. Her eyes were red, face blotchy, but I didn't care. I snatched it from her, checking it was the right one, then stuffed it in my pocket. "James, wait," she said, voice desperate. "I didn't mean to upset you." "You stole from me, Emily," I said, voice sharp. "From my mom. Like what you'd already done wasn't enough." Her face crumpled and she started crying again, but I didn't stop. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. In the days that followed, I blocked her number, deleted her messages, and cut off every way for her or her family to reach me. Calling off the wedding was hard, but this was the final nail in the coffin. As exhausting as it was, it felt like closure. I'd stood up for myself, for my mom, and for the values she'd instilled in me. I knew I'd made the right choice. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace.
Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts, like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more.